What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about The Last of Us show. There's a lot of people out there reviewing the show already, giving you guys their thoughts. So, maybe me reviewing it's going to be just like a repetition of what they're saying, but I still want to give you guys my thoughts regardless. I'm a huge fan of the first game, and the second game I didn't even play it because I knew that, it was just going to be a disappointment to me, even though the graphics were amazing, the gameplay was probably amazing, everything was great, the monsters, all of that. I'm sure, no doubt. But I knew I was going to be disappointed with the story, the way the story is going to go down, right? So I still watched the show though because I was hoping that they would go a different direction with it. And as we all know, if you've been watching the show, they stuck with the same exact story as the first and second game. So when I went into the first season, right? So I'm just gonna talk kind of vaguely about first and second seasons, mostly about the second one. But when I went into the first season, it was great. It was not a letdown. It was immediately captivating. I mean, to me, it was just great. The quality was amazing. The show was just like the game, like the environment, the visuals, all of it was just 100%, like 10 out of 10. You know, it was just it was not disappointing at all. The actors themselves, like Pedro Pascal, for example, his portrayal of Joel was a little bit different from the game, a little softer. But of course, we know that the voice of Joel and Pedro Pascal, Troy Baker, I believe is his name. They're two totally different people, right? So the voice was going to be different, even the personality. So I forgot the girl that voiced Ellie in the game. I forgot her name. She's great. I mean, I've seen her in a couple of things here and there. In the Avengers, I saw her in there as the waitress, but I think her voice as well was very different from Bella Ramsey's portrayal, right, of Ellie. So those four people are four totally different people. So I expected them to be different from the games, even though they have the same makeup, the same clothes, all of that. But you know, their facial expressions, their faces themselves, all of that is different. So I mean, especially for Ellie. But when I went into the show and I saw, Pedro Pascal's acting here with Joel, it was great. I liked it. It was definitely another Joel, but I still liked it very much. You know, we didn't get like the whole grizzly, tough, scary looking Joel. This one was more softer and just I think more humanized, which is fine. You know, I so rolled with it, and I was engaged all the way through. So the first season was just all good. It didn't let down. I think the only episode I had a problem with was the one with what is his name, Bill, right? So the one that focused on Bill's life. I'm glad they went into his life. You know, in the first game, we didn't get much about him. He just kind of Joel ran into him, and he was just always cranky and really rude and all of that. Just didn't care, cold-hearted completely. And we saw that he had like a lover or whatever, but that was pretty much it. His lover had offed himself, right? And he was just alone and bitter. So in the show, they gave Bill a little bit more time to express who he is and stuff. But I think that felt like a totally different story. And that was a problem for me because, regardless of his romantic interest, right? Whatever direction it went, I don't think that it was like I didn't care about it. I was hoping that they would show us a little bit more action with Bill, maybe some encounters with Joel. I mean, I think they did show his Joel encounter with him, but very, very, slightly, very short. I don't think they talked very much. I don't even remember. Like, I know that at the end, at the end of the episode, Joel and Ellie come and he's already passed away, right? He's passed away with his lover, with the guy that he fell in love with. And very, very sad ending. I think the whole episode was wholesome. It was sad and everything. I mean, it really was emotional. But I think that they could have given. Me as a viewer, I wanted to see more action with Bill. I wanted to see more of like that, cold-hearted, gritty, rough, rude Bill that we've met in the first game. I thought that was good because it just, it like. And didn't even go through the action scene that happened in the game. That was another letdown for me. Like, I wish they would have shown more of that, just like the game where they, go through the high school and they have to face a lot of zombies and clickers. None of that happened. It's just more of like just Bill's personal life, him being by himself and then falling in love. Yeah, I don't know. It could have been its own story. It would have been great, fine, but it just didn't fit in what we were seeing so far. I think that was episode 2 or 3 of the first season. But then later we got, we kind of went back to the game story where Joel and Ellie meet Henry and, oh my God, Henry and his little brother. I forget his name. But that was great. I loved how they, the actors that were Henry and the little boy. But in this case, in the show, I like what they did with the little boy. They made him, deaf, right? Deaf, where he can't hear. So I like that they did that. Or was it that he was mute? I think. Oh, I think he was mute. Yeah, and he couldn't communicate. All of that. I mean, I thought that was good. The whole like scene of him and Ellie kind of communicating was good. So I like that they went with that change. That was a little bit more emotional when it came to the outcome, right, of Henry's story and the little boy's story. So I think that was good. They did a great job there. So we can see that in the show, they definitely went a couple of different directions with the characters' personalities themselves, as well as the storytelling, right? So they deleted some parts or they cut out parts from the game and they added some additional parts to the game as well, So I thought it was going good. I mean, just that little thing about the episode 2 with Bill, I wanted to see a little bit of action, zombie encounters or whatever, but we didn't get much of that. It was just kind of like a love story, which it was forgettable for me, even though it was emotional and all of that. It was just forgettable because as soon as you proceed into the show later on in further episodes, you forget about that. So you're more just invested into seeing the monsters, seeing Joel and Ellie just kick butt and grow their relationship together, Those two main characters that we so fell in love with in the first game. So you see them both, continuing to go on their journey and starting to connect, running into bad people, eventually Joel teaching Ellie how to use a gun. All of these little things, these heartwarming, touching moments and all of that. So the scenes with Henry and the little boy, right? So this was one of the episodes where I got kind of like, oh my gosh, I know what's going to happen here, but it's, it's crazy. The way that it's being portrayed here, it still works for me. Even though, the actor that was playing Henry looked a little bit smaller, kind of skinnier. And the little boy, I think the little boy was fine. He looked smaller as well. And, those differences about his inability to talk or hear. I forget which of the two, but I think he couldn't hear. And they were communicating with him through sign language and things like that. So we know that the outcome of both of their lives was an unfortunate one. We know that the little boy is bit and, Henry ends up frustrated, right? We know what happens in the game. If you guys haven't played the game, I mean, I'm surprised you guys haven't at this point, but we know that, this happens to, like, an unfortunate outcome happens for both Henry and the little brother. And so the little brother gets bit, he gets infected, and, Henry ends up, offing himself too as well. I mean, it's just horrible to see. And, but in the end, as a person that has played the game before, saw that coming anyways. So I think that was really good. As we moved on towards the end of the season 1, right, we get the whole, like, the introduction to the bloater, which was awesome. I love what they did with that. And one problem I had with the other guys that get attacked by the bloater and all of the what do you call it, like the horde coming towards them, like when they go to that town. I thought the leader of that group of people, which I've noticed, like, it was, a woman. I know that there's been this controversy about women being leaders and all that. I'm on board with that. I think that there's too much of that going on. It's not a problem when it's just kind of like here and there you see it, but this is being pushed a lot. So I was like, okay, I got kind of tired of seeing that already. But I wasn't surprised with this story, just seeing which direction it was going to go on that second game. So they had this leader that she seemed like she was not scary. She was not, like, intimidating. She was very soft. And I know that the actress that I've seen her, in other roles, she's fine. But I think she does not fit that role of, like, a tough leader, intimidating woman. So, and, as a woman, like, being a leader, her as a woman, I was just not convinced at all. And these guys are just like, taking orders from her and She tries to play this like ruthless, careless, cold, woman that just doesn't care, and she'll kill anybody to get what she wants, and then in the show she's looking for Henry because Henry killed one of her people. I think it was her brother or her dad. I forgot who, but he's responsible for the death of one of her people, and so she's just kind of trying to hunt him down. So as we get to meet these people, I couldn't care less about them. I didn't care about the girl that was the leader. So when it came to the scene where the horde comes out in the bloater, I was so happy that they were all being taken down, devoured, and then of course the woman goes down by a little child that's infected, right? It takes her down and then just like scratches her face and everything, like just mauls her. So that was that was good. That was satisfying. I was like, yeah, I didn't really care about these people, so I'm glad they went down now. And then of course Henry and the little boy have also died. So now we go back to Joel and Ellie. So now we continue, just like the first game, we continue through the story where they have to get to this to the hospital where the Fireflies are located. That's like the point where Joel has to take Ellie, right? So just like in the game. So he's, smuggling, right, this child, taking her to the hospital. He doesn't even know why, right? So just like in the game, he's just going. But again, as they're going through the game, they're building this relationship together. And so we finally get towards the end where they're approaching the hospital. And I know I skipped a lot of parts, but I'm just kind of briefly telling you what I think here. So they get to the hospital and everything happens here, right, where Joel disagrees with the character Marlene, right, that the one that wants to take Ellie into the emergency room or to the to the room where they're going to operate her, because Ellie's immunity to the virus is is the cure, is meant to be the cure for the world. So they want to take Ellie to do that, and that of course means they have to take her brain out, and which means she's going to die. So Joel, because he's so close to Ellie, he avoids that. He keeps that from happening, and so this is when everything just breaks loose or whatever, and Joel just starts to kill everybody in the hospital, including the doctor that was going to perform the surgery on her, and saves Ellie, takes her out of there. And so we see that at the end he's driving away with her. And by the way, really quick, there's that scene where when he's driving away and he's telling her about the what happened when they got there, was just like accurate to the game. I love how they kept like going back to where he's in the elevator and we see Marlene and the parking lot trying to stop him from leaving, and he shoots her down, right? Kind of catches her off guard. Just like the game, man. This was so good. I was like invested into this because I'm like, oh god, this is really good. Pedro Pascal is a totally different Joel, but he's killing it as Joel. I love it. He's cool. Bella Ramsey, I still have to warm up to. She's all right. She's not I don't hate her or anything. She's fine, but I just think that she's a totally different Ellie, like way different. I don't really buy her as Ellie, right? Just kind of more of a skateboard, a tomboy, just a-hole type of person, for the most part, just because of her behavior. Like there's certain parts of her behavior that just throw me off and make me not like her, or at least like her less. So yeah, when it was getting to those final scenes, I was still fully invested, and I was like, they're doing such a great job with Joel here, the way he's taking down Marlene and then taking Ellie with him. Great. That was awesome. Finally, they get to the scene where they arrive to Jackson, and well, that's the end of the show, right? We all know about Ellie asking him about the Fireflies, what really happened, and we know that he lies to her and tells her that there was no cure. Or no, that there was more people that were also just like her, immune, and they didn't need Ellie after all, right? And so they just leave. Right? So I think that's what he tells her. And so we get the end of the season. Second season, when we dive into that, this is when things started to fall apart, right? So as we get introduced to the character Abby, which she is now introduced in the second game, which this is what enraged a lot of players. And this is where I'm going to disagree with the low percent of the people that are actually trying to prove the higher percent wrong. I think that they're still wrong, and the higher percent are still right for the most part. And I'll tell you why. So when we get introduced to Abby, I was actually really shocked they didn't go with like the same look as in the game. We kind of get this unrealistic bodybuilder, kind of almost looking like a male character, Abby, and it was just really just off-putting. I don't know. I didn't think that she was related to the doctor, you know, in the first game. So Abby is a character that is the daughter of the doctor that was going to perform surgery on Ellie, which Joe eventually, you know, took down because he was killing everyone in the hospital to save Ellie, right? So the doctor that Joe killed was the father of Abby. And so when we get introduced to Abby, she is, you know, she's there in front, her and her like group or crew of the Fireflies, I guess, the remainder of the Fireflies. They're like standing on these like like a burial site, you know, a burial site with all these crosses on the ground, and so one of them is her father that they had to bury. And as we go into the show here, we mostly spend our time in Jackson, which is where Joel and Ellie, yeah, Joel and Ellie are located with his brother Tommy, right? Which also was an okay portrayal. I think they were fine with. He was okay. Not bad. I don't really have anything complaints against him because we didn't really get to know Tommy in the game either. So I think it was fine. You know, he looked very different, but fine, fine. So they spent time in Jackson where his brother is and his wife and stuff like that. And so all of this just like tension is happening now between Joel and Ellie, right? So they're not getting along as much. We know that Ellie is somehow doubtful of what Joel told her at the end of the first season to, you know, when he said like everyone is, there was a cure, they didn't need you after all in the hospital, right? So she has some doubts. That's what I was thinking, right, at the beginning. So, because I was like, Ellie's just, she was mad at Joel. There's this like awkwardness going on between them, and she's just not talking to Joel very much. So this is when we get introduced to new characters. Like I said, Abby, her crew, and what Jesse and Dina, right, which is eventually becomes Ellie's, you know, love interest. So Jesse is, you know, and Jesse is the ex of Dina, I guess. I didn't play the second game, so I don't know, but there's this whole thing going on with them. Like all these characters are being introduced, and it's fine so far. So I'm kind of like iffy about the show now, but I'm still going just because it's great to watch. This show was just amazing to watch. Everything with the world was good. It just looks so real like the game. It's so good, just so accurate like the game, and so real even like if you were actually there. So great job with that. So all of this is happening in Jackson. We kind of jump into some political things. They have like court rulings and just this stuff is going on. So I won't to get in too much into that, you know. I'm just going to jump straight to the scene where Jackson just gets attacked by a horde of zombies, right? And so this is when Abby and her crew are very close to Jackson. Abby is pretty much looking for Joel, just like the second game. And yeah, so eventually she like somehow just gets close to Jackson. And, you know, this is when Jackson's getting attacked, right? Which is somehow they're awakened, this horde, they're somehow awakened by Abby because she like is spying on everyone in Jackson there, like with a rifle or some goggles. And she just, I forgot what happens, but she falls down like a hill of snow. I think she's trying to go down and, you know, get closer to where Jackson is or where Joel is. Conveniently, okay, this is what I was forgetting. I was like, why is she getting closer to Jackson all of a sudden? So, conveniently, Joel is riding on a horse with Dina. In the game, I was, you know, I was aware that it is Joel and Tommy that go out rather than Joel and Dina, like in the show, you know. In the game, it's Joel and Tommy. This is how they get like ambushed by Abby and the gang, right? But in this show, Abby sees Joel riding on a horse with Dina, like just on their own, you know. And then Ellie and Jesse, they go out separate ways, right? And then they're just kind of on a search thing going on, or I don't know what's happening there. So Abby, you know, tries to approach the like where Joel is, so she tries to get closer to him, and she goes down this hill, and then that's where she falls into a pit of like where there's a bunch of infected there under the ice in the snow, and then they just somehow wake up because they hear her. We know that Abby eventually gets close to Joel, and then, you know, fast forwarding, Joel ends up where Abby is, right, in her like her shelter area where her and her crew is. Okay, so let me just jump back and forth here between the show and the game. In the game, Tommy and Joel, I mean, I saw this scene in the game just on YouTube. Tommy and Joel are not being Tommy and Joel. You know, from this, like from everything they've gone through, they wouldn't trust people so easily like this. They wouldn't say like, "Oh, yeah, you know, we live right here, just a couple of you know, a couple of miles down. You guys can come. We don't know who you are, but you can come." You know, in this apocalyptic world, they wouldn't just trust somebody that easy. So same thing in the show. Joel just immediately believes Abby when she's like, "Oh, we have a safe spot over here. You know, we can crash there or shelter there because there's a storm there and all of that, so they can't go back to Jackson." So Joel's like, "All right, sounds good. If you do you have guns?" She goes, "Yeah, okay. As long as you got guns, we're gonna need your help anyway. So let's go over there." A little bit different, but I mean, I can see the desperation, and he kind of had no choice. So I can see how that came to be. But still, I don't know. I wouldn't believe Abby that easily if I were, you know, in Joel's shoes. Everything that has gone wrong with him. I mean, there's a scene in the first game where they're driving and Ellie's like, "Stop, this guy needs help," right? And then Joel is just like, he's not even hurt, right? If you guys remember that scene from the first game, Joel just rams over the guy, and you can see that it was actually a setup. There was no injured man, and then they get ambushed by these guys, right? But so we know where Joel comes from. You know, we know why we expected Joel not to believe Abby so easy. So, but in the game he does. In the game, Joel's softer as well in the second game. So it was just not him at all, and not even Tommy. So anyways, we get to this part where Abby ambushes Joel and Dina now in this case. And they don't even kill Dina, which was surprising, right? So they just put her to sleep, which was weird. They could have just knocked her out or something, but I think because, you know, she wasn't really a threat that much, and she was a girl, she was pretty small, they just put her to sleep, I guess. And Joel gets, like in the second game, right? So Joel ultimately gets the golf club beating. Well, they call it the Joel in one, right? He gets the beating with the golf club, which was unnecessary. It was like violently unnecessary. I don't know what. Like I can see what they were trying to do here. You know, with like the whole thing of, "Oh, you hurt my family, so now I'm gonna get you back." The whole like aspect of revenge. So I can see what they were doing here. You know, it happens. Same thing happens like in the game. This is when I was let down as a viewer because I knew that's why I didn't play the second game, because I was so invested in the Joel character. You know, because he just felt so real to me, and we were growing. Like he was growing on all of us as gamers. I was just starting to feel him as a really great father to Ellie. You know, knowing that his daughter died in the first season in the first game. So he was like just being a warm and good father to Ellie. He didn't deserve this type of death, despite what happened. You know, so I mean, this is when we get again this encounter with Abby and Joel. This happens. This brutal scene happens. We have to sit there and watch it again. I mean, I didn't want to see it anyways, but I was watching the show, so I was just, you know, whatever. I just stayed and watched it. I couldn't watch it in the game, but I stayed and watched it in the show. And so it was just as horrible, disappointing. And they just, you know, went a different route to where Abby eventually just takes the broken part of the golf club and just stabs him with the sharp end, you know, rather than just like hitting him the final time or whatever, like with the end of the golf club. So that difference was there, right? With the beating and all that, it took a little bit longer as well. It's not like it was in the game. So, you know, I mean, yeah, it was still really, really sad to watch. After this is when the show becomes very focused on Ellie and Abby and Dina, which is again the love interest for Ellie, you know, the character of Ellie. And they've already had some romantic encounters and stuff before this scene, you know, with Joel's death. So you know they've already had some physical, emotional, all of that encounters. And then you know we see Jesse just kind of like being disrespected left and right, which is the ex of Dina. So I don't know what the heck they were doing with that character, but with Jesse's character. But so this show becomes very focused on the two young women, right? Dina and Ellie, which as a fan of the first game with Joel in it as the main character as well as Ellie, or the co-main character, I don't know, like those both of those characters carried the story. They carried the game. You know, like everyone's perspective, whether it's the bad guys or the good guys, they're all fighting for something, right? They're all trying to protect something. It's always wrong to kill somebody regardless. But I think like the moral behind it, like the reason behind it, the motive, just gives the incident of the murder, right? And like understanding. It just gives it more of a like comprehension. Like me as a viewer, I understood Joel's actions, why he did what he did. And so when this show is carrying on with Ellie and Dina, you know, like just kind of going off into, you know, revenge so they can avenge Joel's death, seeking like going to find Abby and stuff after like court rulings and things here and there that happen. They go off and they go find Joel, you know, like as the show focuses on both of them, I mean, they go off and they go find Abby and stuff. But like as the show is just focusing on both of them, they're acting like if Joel's death didn't even happen. They're like joking around. They're still like flirting with each other. Ellie, or like Bella Ramsey's portrayal of Ellie, is not like, you know, damaged mentally, is not at all affected or impacted from seeing Joel die so brutally. She's just like laughing it off with Dina. So this completely like disconnected me from the show. I was still watching it because I wanted to give you guys my overall review of the whole thing. So, I mean, but I was complaining most of the time. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what are they rolling my eyes, laughing, right? And scenes I was supposed to be serious, I was just laughing. So, yeah, I just didn't appreciate what they were doing there. And, you know, as the show progressed, they go through like, zombie encounters, these bad guys that they're encountering, like, a group of bad guys that are called the Wolves, another group of bad guys that are called the Scars, that are like forest people. They believe in like a tree god, a goddess, and all of that stuff. Like we see all these types of characters come into play, and of course they all have female leaders, as you can see, like with the female god and the female leader of the wolves. All of this was just like it was very like expected to happen. It was obvious. You know, like what I'm trying to think of, the word predictable. Like this was all predictable. So where they were all going with this, like the action was still entertaining. It was still cool. The zombie encounters were fine, but I just didn't buy half the stuff that was going on. Like you have two young girls, like the same age. You know, they don't have much of a background. Like, I mean, Ellie does kind of. So does Dina. We later find out that she kind of went through a thing with her family and all that. But it's just not enough to survive on your own in like an apocalyptic world full of zombies and different types of people that are trying to kill you. It just wouldn't work. It's not believable. So Ellie and this girl are just going through this world and an adventure, and they're just somehow surviving. So all these encounters start to happen. They're getting closer and closer to Abby. We get introduced to all these the wolves and the Scars. We don't get much covered from the Scars. They're just a group of people in the woods that just kind of they show here and there all the time. But I didn't really care about them. The wolves I was kind of invested in. I was like, oh, I want to see what these people do. So there's some scenes that are just good where like the zombies come out. There's a horde coming out. They devour some of these people like the wolves. The Scars hunting down Ellie and Abby. There's a scene where Ellie and Abby are pretty much like in trouble. They go into this abandoned what is it called? It's like an abandoned what is it? Is it a hospital? I'm not sure what it is. So they're walking through there, you know, and they don't even know like what's in there, but they just go in through there because it's the area that's less you know, surrounded by the wolves. Like it's not as secured, right? They're not what do you call that? There's like, what is it called? They're not guarding that area. I forget the word for it, but there's nobody there. So they're like, okay, this is the safest spot, you know? So they go through there, again, trying to get to Abby, right? They're trying to see where Abby is. So they know that Abby is probably somewhere where the wolves are. And as they go through this abandoned hospital, they encounter all these smart infected people. to where they're not fully clickers and they're not just like, what do you call that? Like they're not like slow infected zombie people. They still have like the capacity to think like humans. So they're like kind of watching them as they're hiding, and then Ellie and Abby start to realize they're surrounded by these things. They're in a room here where it's dark, and then all of a sudden these things just start to pop up from behind like furniture and things that are around the room. They're just kind of like looking at them, spying on them, and eventually they're starting to surround them. So there's no way out. Ellie, we know that she's immune and she can get bit and not get infected, right? Is where at some point in the season 2, Abby also finds out, or not, I'm sorry, not Abby, Dina also finds out about this. And then they have like a weird, love making scene, which was just, I didn't need to see that. But so, I mean, we know that, Ellie tells Abby, hey, you should hide because I can get bit so many times and not get infected. You can, and you will die. So eventually, Dina, she hides in the cage. And by the way, Dina's pregnant. So she tells Ellie, like, hey, I'm pregnant. And we get this whole, like, ridiculous script that happens, like this dialogue about how Ellie says, I'm going to be a dad, all of that. We know that the baby is actually Jesse's baby. So we know that that's his kid, right? But anyways, so I was a little bit concerned about Dina because you guys know when I'm watching like something with a person, like a pregnant girl, I just get like, oh my God, please let nothing happen to her. I'm just like always concerned about the baby, right? And by the way, later in the show, we get something horrific happen to a person that's also pregnant, a woman that's also pregnant. So Dina hides in the cage. She closes herself in there, and all these things are surrounding her. And Ellie's just running around trying to lead them away from Dina and getting chased down. Eventually, she gets surrounded, and they just all kind of pile up on her. They're biting her. There's nothing she can do. And she looks at Dina, one of the smart clickers or zombies. They're starting to break through the cage and already starting to, open that cage up so they can attack Dina as well. So everything's just looking bad for both of them, and clearly they're both going to die. But Jesse comes out of nowhere, and he saves, Ellie and Dina. He kills all the zombies, and they're set. They're good to go. Then all three of them are together. They go through the woods, and get surrounded by the wolves people. But they go through the woods to avoid them. They get surrounded by the scars there, and all of that. So eventually, in the woods, they have to kind of separate. Dina and Jesse end up going a separate direction. Ellie goes a different one, and she somehow just hides from the scars in the forest and ends up in the hospital area where some of Abby's people are. She sneaks into there. She finds Nora, which was one of Abby's crew members, and then she confronts her about Abby, tells her, where's Abby? She won't tell her. And at this point, like, Nora, she's surrounded by all this, like, all the spores in the air. So as she is dying, Ellie is trying to ask her about Abby. Where is she, right? And she doesn't tell her. So then she ultimately just like continues to beat her, and the scene cuts out. And so somehow she comes back on the next episode. Like she comes back to this, like to the where they're kind of taking shelter, her and Dina. She comes back, and then Jesse's there. Everyone's there. They're like made it back to this theater place, right, where they're all located. And at this point, like, I like this scene here. So at this point, as they're kind of collecting themselves, getting themselves together, Dina, Ellie, and Jesse, they're kind of, talking about things. Jesse tells them like that Tommy's out there as well. Him and Tommy came after Ellie and Dina because they knew they weren't going to survive on their own. So, clearly he was right. So they he explains everything, like how he found them and how he made his way there to save them eventually, right? So as they're in this theater room, just kind of recollecting themselves, Jesse confronts Ellie about like, Dina's situation and how he sees how they look at each other, and he knows that there's a love interest there, and he starts to see that, he figures out that Dina's pregnant because she didn't want to drink out of like an alcohol that he offered her or whatever, and he was surprised because usually she doesn't, she doesn't say no to those things, to alcohol. She'll take it right away. But when he offers it to her, she didn't want to take it. So at this point, he's becoming suspicious about things, and so he confronts Ellie about this and tells her like, hey, that's my child that she has, right? And so I I'm not going to, watch my child suffer and all of that. Like, I'm going to save both of you, or all of you, right? My child, and get him the heck out of this area and get him back to Jackson or wherever they're going back to, right? So, I mean, this is Jesse just telling Ellie, that he's the father of this child that Dina is expecting. And obviously not Ellie is not the father of the child, because she can't be a father, right? But as Jesse is telling her about all this, I mean, I was just like, dude, this is what the majority of the audience was thinking right now. Like everything that was happening with Dina and Ellie was just kind of like cringy. For me, it was. At least I know the majority of the audience as well. I've seen lots of reviews, so like it was just cringy to me. All of this was it just didn't make sense. So I mean, when this scene happens with Jesse and Ellie, and he's just telling her how things are really going down, and how him and Tommy, if they wouldn't have saved them, they wouldn't have survived. He needs to like save Dina and his child to get him out of there. I was like, yes, thank you. Like, as a male, I mean, even a lot of women as well, I'm sure they don't want that masculinity to just like disappear from the show. It gets boring just watching one gender the entire time. From like bad guys to good guys, they're all like the same gender. It's really boring, So, I mean, I was so happy to see Jesse, but I was like, I know they're going to kill him pretty soon, because I know what direction the writers are going to go to. And the director, Neil Druckmann, like, I know what he's going to do. I was guessing it, right? So, as we're, getting to the end, like the closing, the finale of the show, of the second season, eventually, what's Ellie, Jesse, Tommy, and Dina. I'm going to just fast forward. They get to Abby, right? And so when this final encounter happens with Abby, okay, so disappointing. Oh, and by the way, really quick, the pregnant scene, like, I don't know if you guys watched the show, but there's a scene where this woman's pregnant and Ellie accidentally kills her, and she dies with her baby, which was like really sad to see. She's trying to have Ellie open her stomach to save the baby, but Ellie just has no idea how to do these things, obviously. And, ultimately she ends up passing away, right? As well as other members of Abby's crew. As she's hunting down Abby, right? She accidentally kills this pregnant woman, which was really, really sad to see. And this woman seemed nice, right? From the crew. At least she seemed like the most, reasonable one. Like the most harmless one, right? And she was probably going to be one of those people that would possibly forgive Joel for what he did. But, Abby's the main character. Abby's the focus, right? Abby's the important one that's supposed to be likable. After brutally killing a likable character, which makes no sense. But anyways, Ellie and Jesse run into this room where Abby is. And as they run into there, guess what happens? Jesse dies immediately. The guy, right? Jesse gets shot in the cheek here and just dies pretty quick, in an instant. Ellie obviously doesn't get shot. She hides behind a couch or something. And then Abby is telling Ellie to get out from the back, like put her hands up and stuff, because she's holding Tommy at gunpoint. And if she said if she doesn't, she'll kill Tommy. So then Ellie gives in, right? She comes out with her arms up, and then Abby's like, oh my God, it's you, right? The girl that I let live when I was killing Joel, which, why did you let her live? Who knows, right? You knew she was probably going to come after you, but you still let her live anyways. Makes no sense. But anyways, she says, oh, you're the one that I let live. And okay, she says this line, this exact line that Joel said in the beginning, or in the beginning of the season 2, before Abby kills him. Okay? She says, I let you live. Now, Joel says, I saved your life, right? Abby says, I let you live, to Ellie. Almost like saying, why did you come back to kill me if I let you live? Well, then why did you kill Joel if he saved your life? Well, when the scene comes up where Joel's about to die and Joel says that, Abby's like, Joel's like, I saved your life. And Abby says, what life? I'm sorry, isn't it the life that you were trying to fight for when you were getting surrounded by the Horde? When you were about to get devoured and killed by the Horde? If you didn't care about your life, then why were you fighting for it? Why did you immediately accept Joel's help? She could have shot him right then and there and just let herself get killed if she didn't like her life. But obviously, she cares very much about her life. That was saved by Joel. Regardless of that, she still ends up killing him, having zero mercy. And in fact, she kills him slowly to add on top of that. I don't know why the writers went with that idea. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be pissed off. Why doesn't Ellie tell Abby that she is the cure for the world and that they should just like take her to wherever they are, find a hospital room, and, well, continue to what her fate was, to what her life was supposed to mean. Take her over there and just take her brain out and that's it, you know? But no, Ellie at no point does any of that. Even if she tells Dina about the whole outcome of why Joel did what he did, you know, not even Dina says, okay, well then let's take you to a hospital and have you killed because that's what you want, right? That's what you were so angry at Joel for. Well, none of that is mentioned again. Ellie doesn't even mention any of that to Abby or anybody that she runs into saying, hey, can you guys just take me and just, you know, secure my fate that I was, you know, going to end up as a cure? No, she cares about her life as well. Just like Joel cared about her life, valued her very much and protected her. So, I mean, at the same time, like as Ellie is saying, you didn't value my life. You didn't this and that. You took it away from me. No. How does she know that that was her fate? Her fate. I mean, I know this is fiction. See how I'm getting all like riled up here. But because this is really horrible writing. When you're writing a story, even if it's fiction, it's still relatable to a lot of people. They still submerge themselves into the story, like if they are there. So that's why people become very angry with some of the decisions that the writers make. So when it came to Joel's actions, everything that he did, of course, was with no remorse, was brutal, was, you know, necessary. That's the big one there, that it was necessary to happen, right? And it was understandable. He was clearly protecting somebody he loved. He didn't want them to die or be killed in a really horrifying way for a cure that wasn't even like, what do you call it? Like, they weren't even sure it was going to work. It was not guaranteed. So he saved her, but instead of like this kind of understanding, kind of a, you know, gratitude towards Joel, Ellie just becomes bitter and angry at him and says she can't forgive him and she'll try or whatever, but she's like super let down from him, says why did she do this to her, all of that. I mean, come on, man. Abby, I mean, same thing happened to her. She had her father killed and she went out seeking revenge and killed somebody even worse, in a worse way than her father was killed. So can you imagine, like, these people aren't heroes. So, okay, this is when it comes to the end. This is when I'm going to tell you what I disagree with, like, the small population of people or the small percentage of people that are defending Ellie and Abby as the characters that were kind of like the heroes in their own story or whatever. Mostly based off of the game. At the end of the season here, Abby ends up shooting Ellie. The scene cuts off. We don't see Ellie go down or anything, but she just goes, no! Right? The gun goes off, whatever, the sound of the gun shot, and the scene blacks out. Well, eventually it cuts to this scene now where Abby is asleep, and they wake her up from a couch, and she's like, they say, hey, Isaac wants you for a meeting. And so they go, she's like, okay, I'm going, right? She's going towards where the meeting is, but I guess she's not going towards the meeting because she walks out to where there's a balcony, and she just kind of looks out to the city, and it says like, Indianapolis, or what does it say? I forgot what the name of the city is. So I guess she's like in charge now. I don't know. Potentially they're gonna have like probably like a female leader, you know, in charge of the whole city. Who knows, right? But she's standing there on the balcony overlooking the city, and that I guess is like a new beginning for like a new, you know, just like a new beginning for humanity. And Ellie died already. Abby lived, which. This is unfair to the viewers. This is where a lot of people were like, oh yeah, but I understand where Abby's coming from. I understand Ellie, and I understand that the whole moral behind, at least in the game, like the whole moral behind it was forgiveness. The whole moral behind it was forgiveness and all of that. But I'm not just going to say, oh, forgiveness, right? Because just like that guy that stood up in the court ruling, right, in Jackson, and he said like, you know, calling people out, like calling them like sissies and stuff for not standing up for their people. Yeah, like he's absolutely right. The way they wanted the viewers to see Abby as the good person at the end, and she just ended up like completing her mission. This kind of like a Thanos moment, you know, at the end of Avengers Infinity War. It's like that, right? So she ends up winning, and then everything just kind of like she's overlooking a whole environment and stuff like that, the whole city. When it comes to this game, though, or this story, there was it was an unjustified ending for the character Joel. The whole chasing after Abby, the whole season 2 for the most part, was incredibly pointless. It didn't make any sense to me. For the most part, it was cringy. And the reason why I say pointless is because at the end, well, in the game, at the end, Ellie just lets Abby go. Like if what she did was completely logical, reasonable. No, it was completely brutal and uncalled for. But anyways, the writers want the viewers to think that she had a purpose and a reason to do what she did. So in the game, we can see what happened right there, right? And in the show, we can see that somehow she just like, I don't know if she actually shoots Ellie or not. The scene cuts off before we can see Ellie fall, but it opens up to her just looking at the city. Right there is also saying like, oh, you know, Abby was the hero in her story. She was not the hero in her story. Her father was trying to kill a little girl, or not trying, but just performing surgery on a little girl, which would kill her, which would then release a vaccine or whatever to free the world. There was a father figure that Ellie had. It wasn't her biological father. Defending her. She had absolutely no say in this surgery, by the way, Ellie. She was unconscious, right? She didn't. How do they know she was down with the surgery? So in this case, Joel was the say for her, right? And he said, no, find somebody else, right? So Joel, as a loving father figure, was defending Ellie's position, saving her life, not letting this surgery happen, which had no guarantee for a cure. So Joel did what he had to do, protecting somebody he loved. Abby was doing the same thing, going after somebody that killed somebody she loved. The only problem with this is that the way she did it was not out of love or like her sadness for her father. This was more just because she wanted to see somebody suffer. Joel did not want to see somebody suffer. He was protecting people that were keeping him from defending Ellie, that were trying to actually kill him. Even Marlene had ordered people to kill Joel if he makes a sudden move. So Joel had to kill them back. Abby had no reason to kill Joel the way she did because he saved her. He saved her from the horde. So why are they validating this or excusing her behavior of what she did, right? Of like her actions, of what she did to Joel as like accountable? Why are they saying, oh, well, Abby, I understand where she comes from? No, I don't understand anything where she comes from. Who cares if we were on her side? And we get the scene with Dina saying the same thing. Whether it happened to me first or her first, whatever, I would hunt them down. So I get what Abby is doing, hunting them down and all of that stuff. But what I have a problem with here, like that people are agreeing with Abby. And I'm like, no. Abby was full of revenge as well as Ellie was. Both were in the same kind of story, hunting each other's, hunting each other down for killing the person they loved or whatever. But it just didn't make sense because Abby was defending again a group of people that were going to kill Joel just because they were disagreeing with him, And Joel killed up a lot of people that were going to kill him for protecting a little girl that didn't even have a say into the surgery. So, Abby, again, it was her vengeance towards her father's death was not accountable. It was unnecessary, and it makes sense. I get it, but it was just not to where Abby was correct for doing this. That should have been prevented, or at least if Ellie would have gone seeking out vengeance, that vengeance should have occurred. Where like if you go out and seek vengeance, it's going to come back to you, and especially because Abby was driven by hatred, Joel wasn't. Joel was driven by love. He wanted to protect Ellie. You see the difference? Abby was driven by hatred. She didn't love anybody. She was even really mean to her crew members, right? Very bossy and all of this, right? That's the least of it, right? But when she goes to find Joel, despite of him saving her, she still hated his guts. She still wanted to kill him slowly. She didn't even reconsider about like the fact that she was going to kill him slowly. She was like, okay, I'll just make it fast because you saved my life, so I'll like go easy on you. No, she wanted to see him suffer. That was hate driven. And the writer knows this. The director knows this, Neil Druckmann. Like, I don't know why they are continuing with this woman's story. So I believe season 3, which I'm not even going to watch. I'm going to look at reviews and stuff. But I'm not going to really watch it anymore because I don't care about Abby. I don't care about this character. Like, the season 3 that's going to continue with her, like, why? She's an unlikable character. She's somebody that, by the way, was, you know, players in the game were forced to play as her in the game. So why did, I know a lot of people were just like having her die in the game on purpose. But, you know, like, none of this makes sense. So all of Ellie's, like, driven to seek vengeance should have had a satisfying ending, which would have been her killing a person that was brutally seeking death, right? Towards Joel, you know, filled with hatred. Ellie should have shut her down. Ellie should have shut her down. I was still with Ellie in the game, in the second game at least, and even in the show. But all this stuff just kind of went down south. It definitely felt rushed and forced, and like a lot of just one gender, like all women being the center of the show, was totally just kind of throwing me off too. I didn't like that. All the male characters were being killed or gunned down by female characters. I did not like that. It's not believable in real life for the most part. So I don't know why all this was being pushed into the show. And then again, the vengeance from the side of Abby was acceptable, was validated, understood. Give me a break. Are you kidding me? No, absolutely not. So one way I can simplify this, just to let you guys know, is why I disagree. Joel's actions towards saving Ellie were driven by love, a fatherly love. He was threatened to be killed and shot if he disagreed or made a move against those people, the Fireflies. So he killed them and protected Ellie regardless. Brave, heroic, loving actions of a man. Abby. She was grieving about her father's death. She was seeking revenge, full of hatred. Zero forgiveness. Zero mercy. She went and she still killed Joel slowly. This was not driven out of love. So what side are you on, right? And then Ellie was pointless because in the game she just lets her go. And in the show, she dies. So, you know, that was very, very disappointing, you guys. Those are my thoughts on everything overall. I know this was a really long video, but I appreciate you guys if you stuck all the way to the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts as well. If you disagree with me, that's fine. No problem. If you agree with me, I would like to see or know why you agree with me or disagree with me. I respect everybody's opinion, but that's mine, you guys. Let me know what you thought. I hope you guys enjoyed the review here and also the show. I did enjoy it for the most part, but towards the end I did not. Thank you guys for watching the whole review. Again, I hope you guys have a blessed day or a blessed night. Take care of yourselves. Peace.